All right, we're the only thing that stands between you and a meal, so we'll make this go fast. So real quick, my name is Susan Bennett. That does not look like me, but it is me, in fact. I could work for the CIA or be a Mr. Potato Head, either one. Um, Nice to meet you all. Some of you I know, I've met before, others I do not, so nice to meet you all. A little bit of background, I am celebrating this year 23 years in the retail CPG space, as evident by my big note cards and the fact that I do know the Jetsons. Woo, yeah. So real quickly, show of hands, who in here is familiar with Undertone? Okay. So you guys know we've been around for over 20 years. Most people know us as top of the funnel, primarily, awareness driving tactics. But in recent years, what we've done is doubled down within the retail and CPG space, and we now create full funnel executions. Think of us more as ad experiences. So we're able to integrate a lot of different data sources to be able to create very personalized, localized, and shoppable experiences for your shoppers. So just so you know, we are currently doing display, online video, CTV, gaming. We are now doing streaming audio, all of it optimized with AI. So think of it as audience-aligned creative that's done through the miracle of AI. But we also are able to leverage AI for audience targeting as well. So going out and finding a lot of lookalike shoppers to be able to make your media work a little bit harder for you. So all of that to say that, as we're thinking about media strategies and channels, 90% of what I've just talked about probably didn't even exist 5 years ago. So that's why we wanted to bring in our friend Marie to talk about the current landscape. So burning question off the bat, Bimbo or Bimbo?
We get both, but I prefer Bimbo. So our parent company is Grupo Bimbo, and they're based in Mexico. And if I'm quoted, all I hope is that you guys actually include Bimbo Bakeries USA, because I've been quoted in the past, and it was just Marie, Fallon, Bimbo. So I would prefer the entire thing. So I've been with the company for about 2.5 years, and it's really a fantastic opportunity for me in my career. And I will tell you, prior to joining the organization, I didn't know much about it. But I will tell you that you have all probably heard about our products. If you've ever had a Thomas's English muffin, that's us. If you've ever had Sara Lee bread, that's us. If you've ever purchased or had Little Bites, that's us too.
And they're delightful, especially before lunch. So let's jump in and talk about the changing consumer behaviors and the evolution of media strategy. So how has it changed in recent years?
It's changed a lot. Now, I've been in the industry for a while, over 15 years is what I like to say now. And, I think the thing that surprises me, because I've worked across different industries. I've worked in pharma, I've worked in tech, I worked in insurance, and right now CPG. And the thing that's really surprised me is the rise of the influencer, right? And I think that it's really like a channel on the flow chart now. And we've gone from having wanting the Kim Kardashians to now we're looking really at the nano influencers, and because they can drive greater engagement for our brands. And that to me is the thing that I guess surprises me the most, because a lot of our brands, even the ones with very modest budgets, that's really where they want to go. And I think the one thing that we need to always remind people is that it has to start off with a strategy. Why are you trying to do this? It's not just about what's hot, what's the next new thing.
Absolutely. So I'm sure that the burning question out here in the audience is, how do you actually marry the traditional media needed to, engage the shoppers along with some of these new emerging trends?
Great question. In terms of traditional, and I will tell you that candidly, we probably have gone too far to the all digital side. And so it's one of those things that you have to be cognizant of when you're putting the plans together. As much as I love it that our agency pushes us, I think sometimes we have to push them too. And I say that in all due respect, because sometimes you have some young people on the business, and they don't necessarily think about terrestrial radio. They don't necessarily think about local advertising. But if you think about the course of your day and how you interact with media, you're seeing all of these executions, right? So sometimes we have to ask them. The other thing I think that's helpful is like asking for thinking about things like video and how do you plan it holistically, right? So linear is not dead, right? But there are lots of opportunities, and looking at the plan holistically, I think, is one way to try to marry it. And obviously looking at the data, understanding where your consumers are, how they're consuming the media, what they like, what resonates with them, all of that. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I find most interesting about your role is you actually cover media, your analytics, as well as content. So maybe let's talk about the media, or the analytics itself and how you're using that.
Yes, it's actually one of the reasons I was really excited about the role. And true story, when I heard about it, I thought it was primarily media. I've been doing media for a really long time, and this was a unique opportunity to actually lead 3 distinct teams. So there's a media team which operates in a very traditional function that we help lead the media strategy on behalf of our brand marketers. And then we have an analytics team that helps facilitate the marketing mix modeling, agile attribution, and some A/B testing. And then we also have a content team that actually develops creative. And recently we stood up a social listening team. But in terms of the analytics and how we're using it, I think it's helpful to understand too how our team was formed. So my team is about 2.5 years old. And the organization recognized that, okay, we have a lot of well-known products, but we haven't really put a lot of marketing muscle behind them. And we want to make sure that we're doing it in an efficient way. And so they partnered with a consulting firm, of course, and then they decided to create what we call these learning lab environments, right? So we're doing a lot of testing in-house. And so the analytics team does what a lot of people refer to as A/B testing, but it's basically incrementality testing, because I don't want to say A/B testing and have people think we're testing how, just what the creative looks like or just websites. We're actually going out there and identifying markets. We're doing small scale tests, and we're trying to understand in 4 to 6 weeks what's performing. And we're doing that across lots of different tactics. And we've been very successful in doing this, so much so that we've been able to go to senior leadership on multiple occasions and ask for incremental budget for a lot of our brands. And we've done this over the past couple of years. What's fantastic about this, specifically with analytics, is we don't just look at the A/B testing or the incrementality. We also look at the marketing mix modeling. And what's great about that is that it is a regression analysis, but it often comes too late. But by the time it comes, it validates a lot of the stuff that we're doing in those local markets. And then recently we launched our Agile pilot, and that's been going fantastic. So now what we'll be able to do is, working with the Agile, we'll actually be able to, in an ideal world, increase our ROIs at a faster clip, because we'll be getting that data faster.
That's amazing. We all love fast data, that's for sure. So let's sort of double click into content and talk about the role that personalization is playing.
In my past life and here too, what we've seen is that personalization can work wonders for us, right? So it was funny, we did a test, and I honestly did not expect much of it. It was for Thomas's Bagels, and what we did was we had some display ads, and we just talked about the location, right? And we found that just by adding the location, that actually increased the performance of the ad. So if you really start to think about dynamic personalization for your messaging, not only will you get people to actually interact with the messaging, stay a little bit longer, but it's also going to lead to higher conversions. And I saw that in my previous role, and I'm seeing that here too.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about the big thing in the room, AI, which everybody loves to talk about. So maybe talk about how AI is going to play a role in the future as far as targeting and personalization.
Yes, AI is definitely the shiny new object. Everybody's interested in it. And honestly, I feel that I find myself in a rabbit hole, just doing lots of research and trying to play with it and understand it a little bit better. What's unique is that working with 3 different verticals, we each have an opportunity within AI. But I'll speak specifically to the content team because we're a very lean team overall. But when I think about the fact that we have modest budgets, I think about there's so much opportunity to personalize the messaging, but also create more content, right? Like when you think about the modest budgets that you have, just the other day we were having a conversation with some of our mainstream bread brands that you might know, like Sara Lee and Artisano, and we were talking about should we develop more content? And I said, absolutely. Like, if you think about the Dave's Killer Breads out there, they're doing Hawaiian breads, for example, the Hawaiian rolls. They're doing a fantastic job in terms of creating additional content more frequently on all of the different platforms. And I think that when we know how lean our budgets are, how lean our teams are, but we know what creative's working for us, we can use AI to basically create more bespoke content on behalf of our brands and drive the business even faster.
Absolutely. All right, everybody roll with me for just a minute because I have to ask. Let's talk about the landscape of retail media networks and the role that they're playing.
We actually did stand up a retail media team as well within the past year. Janice is actually on my team.
Hi,
She's part of the retail media team. And for us as a CPG company, and I think we all know in the room too that like when it comes to getting first party data, it's easy for people like Amazon, right? But it might be, it's a little bit harder, even if you're little bites, to get people to give you your data. So partnering with the retail media networks is really important for us because we can leverage that information to better target. And so we have been working, obviously, with all the big ones like the Amazons of the world and the others. But one of the challenges that we have, though, is, and I'm sure everybody has a similar challenge, once you start spending, you sort of set your base, right? And you're still talking about like, the Walmarts of the world and the Krokers of the world. And so you just want to make sure what I've found to be effective is that you just put all the cards on the table and everybody understands which tactics are working, what's not working, and what your goals are for the year, right? So that's what's important for me right now and for the team is just understanding, okay, how are we trying to drive this business and letting them understand that, okay, these are the goals for the year. This is how much of our portfolio you represent. And being very crystal clear that if we can't drive the business in this way, we're going to have to maybe think about doing something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we're thinking about where we've come from and how quickly things have emerged and changed in the industry, where do you actually see personalization going in the future for the next decade?
I actually see us doing more personalization, but at the same time, I get a little leery. I'll be honest, because so if you think about, I'll pick on a brand right now. We have Bays. In addition to Thomas's English Muffins, I don't know how many of you know about Bays, but it's a great brand. And the thing is, it's not that many people know about it. And my concern is that if we go too niche, too narrow, we can't really grow the brand. So I think that personalization is great, and I think it definitely has its purpose, but I think we still need to think mass.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So burning question. Have you seen any really great media campaigns lately that have really had a nice mix of channel?
I watched the Super Bowl, or I should say the Usher show, a couple weeks ago. Yes, I was one of those dancing in my living room.
We all were.
Yeah, I had a great time at the show. But honestly, the Dunkin' Donuts ad, like I love Dunkin'. I love Ben Affleck and J-Lo and Matt Damon, and I thought they did a phenomenal job. And what I really appreciate about it is that not only how quick they were with all of the different tactics they released the day after, but there was a slow build. Like I had no idea that the ad that they started last year was going to continue. And then if you watch the Grammys and some of the other shows before, it was definitely a slow build. And I felt like they used all of the channels very effectively. And they were able to use influencers like Charlie D'Amelio and some popular artists like Jack Harlow. So I thought they did a really, really nice job, not just leveraging the celebrity, but leveraging all of the different media tactics and honestly making 1 + 1 feel like 3.
Amen. Yes. Yeah. All right. Since we're all friends in here, who in here actually ordered the tracksuit? Anybody?
I tried.
And your husband would have worn it with pride, right?
Yes. I told him he would look amazing in it.
Who doesn't look good in orange? Awesome. Well, do we have any questions from the audience?
So again, Joseph Dressler, Adform. Susan brought up retail media before. Seeing the fact that you handle both media and analytics, how do you start to think about incrementality in that world? Because obviously there's so many loyal shoppers who you guys are targeting already buying your products.
That's a great question in terms of retail media. We're actually in a process right now. I guess I can say this is what we've seen from a retail media perspective is that we can do better, right? But everybody measures things a little bit differently. So we're actually working very closely with a couple of key partners so that we can do deeper dives on the tactics that are working and aren't working. But we've also, I mean, I've personally had some conversations with other organizations and some of the retail media networks about how do we bring more standardization into the process overall. I don't know if I answered your question quite.
It's a loaded one.
Oh, there's one in the back.
Thank you. Double clicking on that retail media question a little bit more, there's so many brands that are out there that you're competing with. And one of the things about these retail media companies is they serve pretty much multiple masters. How do you fight for more share of, I guess, digital shelf space in addition to data, in addition to performance, to really maximize your spend?
That's a great question in terms of how do we fight for more digital shelf space. I probably won't be able to answer the digital shelf space because of the way that our team is structured, quite honestly. But what I can tell you is that for some of the key retailers, we're making sure that we're spending enough in some of the channels that matter. But the other thing, too, is that we've also started to think about the consumer journey and how all of those tactics work together. So it's not just about when a person is purchasing the product, but making sure that you're messaging them and the messaging is personalized for the different places they are in the journey. So literally taking them through the funnel and making sure that you have the right awareness message, the right consideration message, and then when it comes to conversion, having a different message. Obviously, we're trying to make sure that we have a presence at the digital shelf space, but we have to recognize that it's not just there, it's all along the way. And what we found with a couple of partners in particular is that when we're just paying attention to the digital shelf space, our returns aren't as high. So you have to make sure that you have presence throughout the funnel.
I knew retail media networks were going to be the hot button. Oh, yes.
Hi, Anthony Taguchi with Vanguard. On the topic of share wallet, has your brand thought about cross-sell opportunities, the role of media that plays in really increasing the products that are offered by your company and how you sell?
Maybe repeat that. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. On the topic of cross-selling or share wallet, how has your company leveraged the media channels to help really sell more products across the board?
I love that question because one of the things that if you know our product portfolio, we're trying to establish swim lanes for the products because, yeah, you have Sara Lee bread, right? And you also have artisanal bread, if you know Arnold, Brownberry, and Ora wheat. So we have all of that, right? So how do you establish the crossover? So understanding, okay, if this is somebody that's buying healthy bread for themselves, they might not necessarily be buying the multigrain for their children. So they might be buying something else to make French toast, right? So understanding the consumer, what they look like, and then messaging them in the right environments to make sure that you can capitalize on the fact that, okay, I know from my data, for example, this is what they typically put in their basket. So mom may be buying the multigrain bread, but she's going to be buying maybe artisanal brioche to make French toast for her kid and making sure that you're messaging her the same person at different times so that she can think about it.
Why am I using the mic? Okay, give me a few of them. I love that because one of the things that I was thinking that I wanted to ask just as a final question, which I think you kind of answered in a way, was do you ever let gut instinct override what the data or the analytics are telling you when we kind of look at it and we go, and here we're not feeling it?
Yes, is the short answer.
Well, good.
I think sometimes. I mean, I would be lying if I said no. I mean, I love data probably more. I mean, I'm a data geek for sure. But I think sometimes we can get data paralysis, if you will. And sometimes you have to lead with the emotions. Like we're working right now on some campaigns for Entenmann's. And, data tells us that we should be building the campaigns one particular way. But what we're really trying to do is appeal to people who maybe bought Entenmann's in the past, who have an emotional connection with the brand and reminding them, okay, this is a product that brings people together. So maybe some of the data may tell us something different in terms of like what the ad should look like and what's performed well for us in the past. But in that particular instance, I think, and we've actually done some pre-testing as well that has basically validated the fact that leading with the emotional hook will work for us.
Thank you very much, guys.